Oh hey, in this video I thought I'd go through different parts of the song Estimated Profit. J-Darks has, as always, an awesome tab that I'm definitely going to rely on at times, try to build on it, especially bring out some of Weir's parts, but definitely recommend that you go check out his site and definitely check out the tab for this song. Start with the main riff that Jerry uses, and then we'll sort of work in the different parts as we go along. So we'll alternate between Bobby and Jerry. The main riff that he uses, as I hear it, is going to be built around the F-sharp minor pentatonic scale. F-sharp, A, B, C-sharp, E, there's our F-sharp, and there's our A again. Now, what I hear Jerry doing, and sometimes he gets lazy and doesn't play all the notes and he varies it a little bit, but most of the time it's going to be this. And I'll do it slowly and then name the notes. And then I'll turn on the envelope filter in a minute. F sharp, sort of a stutter, A, B, C sharp, A, F sharp, E, C sharp, F sharp, B, C sharp, A, F sharp. Alright, so let me turn on the envelope filter I've got, at least on the software that I'm running all this through, so that I can go back and forth between trying to sound like Jerry and trying to get some of Bobby's sound from the late 70s, which I kind of like. In addition to the riff we've just been doing, over the verses, Jerry's going to be messing around with different riffs based off of the F-sharp minor pentatonic again. So. And then once Bobby starts singing things like, so there's some freedom that you've got there to play around with. Again, the notes that we were using before in the main riff, mess around with them as you want. All right, now let's move a little bit over now to Weir's part, and then we'll come back and look at what's going on in the chorus. Now, while Jerry's doing that familiar riff, Bobby's going to be playing around with the F-sharp minor and then some pull-offs from that. In the 70s, when they first started playing the song, Bobby would often begin up with the F-sharp minor up at that 5th fret, and then actually have this little riff using the A note to the F-sharp. In later years, he sort of got tired of that. I think as Brent, first Keith, but then Brent, as he got more and more prominent in the mix, Bobby's part actually sort of began to become more and more minimal till the 90s, when he wasn't playing a whole lot in certain sections at all. So we're going to have that F-sharp minor, F-sharp minor down here as well, and then a little pull-off that we can do, grabbing the D and pulling that off. And then there's the full B minor that you can do as well with the pull-off. All right, so let me play around with that for a little bit with Jerry's part in the background, and then we'll start moving into the verses and the chorus. Alright, now for the verses, Bobby's often just playing off of some single notes. We'll see what Jerry's doing is doing a little riff off of the F sharp. But when Bobby's playing the full chords, and it's just sort of easier to do it that way, go with an F sharp minor, my time coming, any day, don't worry about me, no. It's alright, this way, I know her now. So F sharp minor, B minor, and then just pull off everything back to that partial F sharp minor. Alright, now when we move to California, preaching on the burning shore, move up to the G, play the G up at the 7th fret. C, G, F, C. Using that inverted C shape that he likes to use. The F, again the D shape. One of the things that Bobby likes to use once they're sort of into the long breaks, the long jams, is use that inverted shape for the G. So get the bar part all the way up at the 12th. Then get your inversion, so get your B note in there, and if you want to add the D, you can with your pinky. And then use the sort of D shape at the 12th fret for your C, slide down for the F, and then here's a C5 that Bobby will use. So here's our C, G, C. Alright, so when we come to Jerry's part in the chorus, essentially what he's going to be doing is working off of G. Of course, Bobby's himself doing G chord to the C to the G. Jerry's going to use the G note, A, up to the B, down to the A, and then hitting the high C, and sometimes alternating that with another pass through where he comes back and goes back to the G. You can do it with partial chords if you want. There's your G. Grab the C chord with the extra A note, slide it up and get the B note. And then get the high 2 strings on the C chord. Now, when we go back to Bobby's part, for lack of a better phrase, we'll call it the bridge. This is going to be one of the harder transitions, especially when it comes to Jerry's parts. A lot of chords to keep in mind, and the soloing that he does is really tough. So I'll try to give you a little bit of a guide of how to proceed there. So we've got we're at the section where I'll call down thunder and speak the same. D minor. I think it sounds better to use an E5, but that's what he used in later years, or a full E if you want. Do that 3 times. So I'll call thunder and speak the same. And now minor, and then I'm going to light my F, A. Alright, so D minor to E 3 times, then D minor, then going to light my F, like D shape, D, A. Now we start what we'll just call the transition to the jam. And here are the chords. And we'll talk a little bit about what's going on there. So A, B minor, D minor, A minor, C minor, G minor, E flat minor, F minor, grab the C sharp, oops, sorry, F minor, grab the C sharp, then move up and grab the D, and then if we go Bobby's bars, we'll just go back from there into the G. Now when we come back to Jerry's parts, we'll see what he's doing over there. But a way to think about this transition, all those chords, the D, the B minor, the D minor, all of that, one way to think about it is it's a series of descending notes. So think about it. We're going to have a B minor, an A minor, a G minor, and an F minor. But between those steps, we're going to go to the flat third of the chord. So we've got B minor, the flattened 3 is D. So we'll go B minor, D minor, then we step down to A minor, then we go to the flat 3 of the A minor, which is C, so C minor. Then we step down to the G minor, go to the flat 3 of that, that's up to our B flat minor, then back to our F minor. That might help a little bit just to remember the sequence of them. When we come to Garcia's part, this is maybe one of the hardest little transitions that Garcia does. While Weir's working off of the D minor and the E, Garcia's just going to be working off of the D note down to the C and back up. When Weir moves to the E, Garcia's going to move up to the E note and work off the E and the D. So it's going to sound like Now remember, Weir's going to end that little section with back to the D minor, F, A. And when he does that, once he goes to the F and the A, that's when Garcia actually starts his little soloing bit. Try to catch the root note of each of those chords that Weir's going to go through, starting with the F to the A, and then the B minor, the D minor, all the ones we started. So think about working your way up and down the neck using minor pentatonic scales, because we're going to be using essentially root 6 minor chords. Think about using quick riffs off of the minor pentatonic, where you try to catch the leading note or the root note of each of the chords as a way of sort of playing through the changes. Now let me try to go through a sample of that. The timing is sort of the crucial part, maybe more important than the notes actually are striking. You might want to start slowly by just doing some arpeggios to try to get the timing right, and then work up to doing a little bit more, something a little bit more ambitious. All right, so let's give it a try with Weir's track sort of slowed down in the background. Now, we've gone through that big build-up sort of artificial to stop it here, but just because we're going to be changing gears. So we've gone through that build-up. We've got our F minor, we've got the C sharp and D. Now we're ready for the main sort of solo break. The chords, remember, that Bobby's going to be doing are the G, the C, the G, the F, and the C. It's tempting to go for a G major scale, but you can actually make life much easier by thinking about G mixolydian. The difference is you end up flattening the 7th note, so you turn the F sharp into an F, and then you got yourself all the notes that are present in the C major scale. And if you think about what's in the C major scale, and then the chords that we're working over, G, G, B, D, C, C, E, G, then F, F, A, C, and our C again. All those chords are natural notes, nothing but naturals. So the C major scale will work over that. Sometimes Jerry is just using that plain old scale and just making use of the envelope filter. Other times he's working off of the chords. So he'll be playing essentially like we were doing before, but now doing little riffs off of the chords that Bobby's doing. But if you start off just by thinking about the C major scale, you can just get a lot of mileage out of that way. Now think about, just to get it in your head, think about what's going on there with Bobby, so you can just sort of imagine. Now, when we think about the way the song ends, after Weir does his extended sort of vocal ad-libbing, the song goes back to a scale from Jerry's part that's centered around the F sharp. And one thing to think about to help you sort of understand what's going on is to really kind of work backwards. Very often the song will go from estimated into I's, and you might think, how can you get from a song that's got an F sharp minor bass scale, when we were doing our F sharp minor pentatonic, how can you end up with that into a song that's based around the E major? Well, if you take the notes in the E major scale and you start that scale on the F sharp and end it on the F sharp, that's going to be actually what's known as the F sharp Dorian. Another way to think about it is the F sharp Dorian has the same notes in it as the E major scale. The way to think about that is Dorian is the second in the list of modes. So you ask yourself, what major scale is going to have F sharp as its second? The answer is E. The song Eyes of the World is going to be built around the E major scale. So essentially what Jerry is going to be doing is he's going to be using the same notes in the sort of outro of Estimated as he uses in the intro and throughout the Eyes of the World. The difference is simply going to be which note gets emphasized. And if you listen carefully, you can hear the sort of decisive moment where he goes from working off of the F sharp when suddenly E ends up becoming the one that gets focused on. And he often turns off the envelope filter at that point. But if you listen, you could hear that change from focusing on the F sharp to focusing on the E. But he's using the same notes. And once he's got the focus on the E, then he's going to change the rhythm up, and we're going to find ourselves moving into the introduction to Eyes of the World. Now, just to sort of think about what Weir's doing, let me just change the settings a little bit. What Weir is going to be doing throughout that outro on the eyes part is going to be working off of typically the A major chord, which is the relative major of the F sharp minor. That is, the F sharp minor is the relative minor of the A major chord. So we'll have him doing things like and other chords that you can use. Take that A, grab the F sharp in there, and you've got your F sharp minor. Grab the extra B in there. Even a G sharp minor. And then if you start focusing on the A chord, while Jerry's essentially moving, now you've got the A. And we're off and run into eyes.